The sky above Earth had not been blue for 7 months. Captain Dae-jung Kim stood at the observation window of the ESS horizon, watching the gray clouds swirl below. Ash from 1,000 volcanoes filled the atmosphere. The asteroid had changed everything. Dae-jung remembered the day it happened. He had been on Mars when the warning came. An asteroid, massive and unexpected, heading straight for Earth. The defense systems tried to stop it. They failed. The rock crashed into the Pacific Ocean with the force of 1,000,000 bombs. Tsunamis wiped out coastal cities. Earthquakes shattered continents. But the worst part came after. The impact threw so much debris into the sky that sunlight could barely reach the surface. Plants died, crops failed. Animals starved. Humans began to starve too. Scientists said Earth had maybe 2 years left, maybe less. That was why the horizon flew through deep space now, far from home. It was humanity's desperate hope. Find someone out there, anyone, beg for help. Dae-jung never imagined his job would be to save the entire human race. Behind him, Dr. Hana Yoon worked at her station. She studied alien signals, searching for signs of intelligent life. Hana was younger than Dae-jung, with bright eyes that still held hope. He wondered how she kept that hope alive. "Captain," Hana called out, her voice shaking with excitement. "I'm picking up something. It's not natural. Someone built this signal." Dae-jung moved quickly to her station. The screen showed patterns repeating and complex. His heart beat faster. "Can you locate the source?" "Yes, a system 3 light-years away. We can reach it in 6 days with the FTL drive." Hana looked up at him. "Captain, this could be it. This could be our chance." Dae-jung nodded. "Set course. Maximum speed." He tapped his communication badge. "All crew, this is the captain. We may have found someone. Prepare for possible first contact." In the engineering bay, Minho Park barely looked up from his work. He was fixing a coolant leak in the FTL drive. Minho had the best hands on the ship. He could fix anything. But he could not fix his broken heart. His wife and daughter had been in Seoul when the tsunamis came. Minho had been on a space station, safe above Earth. He watched the waves destroy a city on a newsfeed. He never saw his family again. Now he worked 18 hours a day. Working helped him forget. Sometimes. "Park," the captain's voice came through the speakers. "I need the FTL drive at full power. Can you do it?" Minho wiped grease from his hands. "Give me 2 hours. I'll make it sing." He did it in 90 minutes. The horizon jumped through space, bending reality around itself. Inside the ship, the crew felt nothing. Outside, stars stretched into lines of light. 6 days of travel passed like a strange dream. Lieutenant Ji-won Choi spent those days checking weapons systems. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, only 24 years old. Ji-won had grown up hearing stories about aliens from old movies. In those stories, aliens were usually hostile. She hoped reality would be different. "Do you think they'll help us?" she asked Hana one evening in the mess hall. Hana stirred her coffee slowly. "I want to believe that any species intelligent enough to travel space would also be wise enough to be kind. But I don't know. We can only hope." "Hope is all we have left," Ji-won said quietly. When the horizon emerged from FTL near the source of the signal, everyone stopped breathing for a moment. The view screen showed something impossible, something beautiful. Ships hung in space around a nebula that glowed with soft colors. But these were not ships made of metal. They looked like they were carved from crystal, transparent and gleaming. Light seemed to flow through them like water. The ships were alive with energy, pulsing gently like heartbeats. "My God," Dae-jung whispered. Hana's instruments went wild. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures." "These beings, they're not biological in the way we understand it. They're made of pure energy contained in crystalline structures." A communication channel opened. No words came through, but something else, images, feelings, curiosity. "Welcome." The beings were speaking directly to their minds. Dae-jung took a deep breath. He had to do this right. Humanity's survival depended on the next few minutes. "This is Captain Dae-jung Kim of Earth. We come in peace. We come asking for help. Our world is dying," he transmitted everything. Images of Earth before the asteroid. Videos of the impact. Pictures of empty cities and darkened skies. Data about the failing crops and starving people. He held nothing back. Humanity's shame and desperation were laid bare before these strange, beautiful beings. For a long time, nothing happened. The crystal ship simply hung in space, silent. Daejung felt sweat run down his back. Had he said something wrong? Were they offended? Would they turn away? Then one of the larger ships moved closer. A presence touched their minds again. This time it was not just curiosity. It was something warmer, compassion, sadness for humanity's pain, and then, incredibly, a decision. Images flowed into their minds. The being showed them their name in a form humans could understand. They called themselves the Velkari. They had existed for millions of years. They had watched countless species rise and fall. They had seen civilizations destroy themselves and others survive against impossible odds. The Velkari had a rule. They did not interfere. They only watched and recorded. But sometimes, very rarely, a species moved them so deeply that they broke their own rule. Humanity had moved them. The lead Velkari, an ancient being that humans would later name Elder Luminara, communicated a message. Your species shows promise. You reached out for help instead of giving up. You came with honesty, not weapons. We will help you. Tears ran down Hana's face. Jiwon gripped her console so hard her knuckles turned white. Minho, down in engineering, heard the news through his headset and sat down heavily on the floor. Daejung stood straight, his military training keeping him composed, but his voice shook when he spoke. Thank you. You're saving billions of lives. We will never forget this. The Velkari transferred technology to the Horizon's computers. Designs for atmospheric processors that could clean Earth's sky. Nanotechnology that could heal soil and help crops grow even without much sunlight. Medical supplies that could treat radiation sickness and starvation-related diseases. Minho studied the designs with growing amazement. This technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had created. But it was also elegant and simple. The Velkari had designed it so humans could build and maintain it themselves. Captain, Minho called up to the bridge. This is incredible. With these designs, we can start fixing Earth's atmosphere within months. The nanoseeds will regrow forests in areas we thought were dead forever. Daejung wanted to offer something in return. Payment, alliance, anything. But Elder Luminara's message was clear. We require nothing. When you have strength again, when you travel among the stars, remember what we did. When you find others who need help, give it freely. Make the universe brighter. That is payment enough. The crystal ships began to fade, moving away into deeper space. The Velkari were leaving. Hana wanted to call them back to learn more, to say thank you 1,000 more times. But Daejung stopped her. Let them go, he said softly. We have a world to save. The Horizon turned toward home. In its cargo bay, it carried the means to save humanity. In the hearts of its crew, it carried something else, a debt. Not the kind you pay back with money or goods, but the kind you carry forever. The kind that changes who you are. As Earth grew larger on the view screen, Jiwon asked the question everyone was thinking. How do we repay someone who saved our entire species and asked for nothing? Daejung looked at his reflection in the dark glass. We remember, and when our time comes, we do the same for someone else. Earth's recovery began the day the Horizon returned. The atmospheric processors worked better than anyone hoped. Within a year, patches of blue sky appeared. Within 3 years, crops grew again. Within 10 years, Earth was healing. But humanity never forgot the beings made of light who had given them a second chance. Every human child learned the story. Every school taught about the Velkari. And humanity made a promise that would shape their future among the stars. They would remember. And one day they would repay that kindness in ways that would shake the entire galaxy. 100 years had passed since the Velkari saved humanity. Ambassador Taemin Han stood in the memorial garden on Earth, looking at the crystal monument that honored their saviors. He came here every year on the anniversary. Today felt different. Taemin was the grandson of Lieutenant Jiwon Choi, who had served on the Horizon. His grandmother had told him the story many times before she died. She made him promise to never forget what the Velkari had done. He never had. Earth was beautiful now. Green forests covered the continents. Blue oceans sparkled in the sunlight. Cities gleamed with technology that mixed human innovation with Velkari principles. Humanity had not just survived. They had thrived. More than that, humanity had spread to the stars. Mars held 3 million people now. The asteroid belt had dozens of mining stations. And humans had built their own FTL drives based on what they learned from the Velkari. 7 colony worlds orbited distant suns. But humanity had also created something new, something no other species had done. They called it the Velkari Doctrine. It was simple. If you find someone who needs help, you help them, no matter the cost. No questions asked. Just like the Velkari had helped humanity. Every human ship carried supplies for emergencies. Every colony kept extra resources ready to share. Human diplomats traveled the galaxy looking for species that needed aid. They had already helped 6 different civilizations with disasters, asking nothing in return. Taemin's communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Suji Kang calling from orbit. Her face appeared on the small screen and she looked worried. "Ambassador, we have a situation. You need to come to Fleet Command immediately." 30 minutes later, Taemin entered the command center. Admiral Kang stood before a massive display screen. She was a serious woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 15 years. "Show him," Kang said to her communications officer. The screen lit up with a recorded message. It was old, damaged, breaking apart into static, but Taemin recognized the frequency pattern immediately. Velkari. His heart began to race. "Captain Rena Bay's scout ship picked this up at the edge of the outer rim," Kang explained. "It took our computers 3 days to clean up the signal enough to understand it." The message played. It was not words, but images and feelings just like a century ago. Fear, pain, a call for help. The images showed Velkari crystal ships fleeing. Behind them came something dark and terrible. Ships that looked like they were made from nightmares, all sharp edges and hungry metal. "We've identified the attackers," said Dr. Hyon Seo, stepping forward. He was the chief researcher of xenotechnology, a thin man with tired eyes. They call themselves the Kreeth Swarm, a biomechanical hive mind that consumes entire worlds for resources. Hyon brought up more data. The Kreeth have been expanding for 200 years. They've destroyed 15 civilizations. The Velkari's energy technology and crystal ships are exactly what the Kreeth need for their next phase of expansion. They're hunting the Velkari to extinction. Taemin felt cold. "Where are the Velkari now?" "Scattered," Rena Bay answered. She had arrived while Hyon was speaking. Her uniform was still dusty from her ship. "We've tracked them to several refugee systems, but the Kreeth are hunting them down methodically. The Velkari have no weapons, Ambassador. They're pacifists. They can't defend themselves." Silence fell over the command center. Everyone knew what this meant. The beings who had saved humanity now needed saving themselves. Admiral Kang spoke carefully. "Ambassador, I need to be clear about something. The Kreeth Swarm is more powerful than us. Much more powerful. If we fight them, we might lose. We might lose everything. Earth, the colonies, everything we've rebuilt." Taemin looked at her. "Are you saying we shouldn't help them?" "I'm saying we need to understand the risk. I have children, Ambassador, grandchildren. Every person in this fleet has family. If we do this, some of us won't come home. Maybe none of us will. The Velkari saved us when we had nothing," Taemin said quietly. "They asked for nothing in return. They just asked us to remember, to help others like they helped us. Well, now they need help. How can we call ourselves human if we turn away?" Dr. Hyun cleared his throat. "There might be another consideration, Admiral. The Kreeth don't stop. They expand constantly. If they consume the Velkari, they'll be even stronger. Eventually they'll come for us anyway. Better to fight them now with the Velkari as allies than to fight them later when we're alone." Kang nodded slowly. "I know. I've been thinking the same thing. But this decision is too big for the military alone. We need to take this to the World Council." The World Council met in emergency session. Representatives from every nation and colony attended. The debate lasted for 3 days. Some argued for caution. Earth had just recovered from near extinction. Why risk everything again? Others pointed out that the Velkari doctrine was not just words. It was who humanity had become. If they abandoned it now, what did that say about them? On the 3rd day, Taemin gave a speech that would be remembered for generations. He stood before the council and spoke from his heart. "My grandmother was on the horizon," he began. "She told me about the day they met the Velkari. She said they were the most beautiful things she had ever seen, beings of pure light and compassion. They could have ignored us. We were nothing to them, just another dying species in an infinite universe." He paused, looking around the chamber. "But they didn't ignore us. They broke their own rules to help us. And they taught us something important. They taught us that civilization is not measured by technology or military power. It's measured by compassion. by what you do when someone needs help. For 100 years, we've told ourselves we would honor that lesson. We've helped others because the Velkhari helped us. But now comes the real test. Can we help the ones who saved us, even if it costs us everything? Taemin's voice grew stronger. I say yes. Not because we owe them a debt, though we do. Not because it's smart strategy, though it is. But because this is who we are now. This is what humanity has become. We are the species that remembers kindness. We are the species that helps no matter the cost. If we turn away now, we lose more than a battle. We lose our soul. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would answer the call. Admiral Kang immediately began mobilizing the fleet. Every military ship in human space received orders. Every colony sent supplies. Dr. Hyun and his team worked around the clock, developing new weapons specifically designed to fight the Kreth's biomechanical systems. But Taemin knew the fleet alone might not be enough. Humanity needed allies. He prepared to travel to the Galactic Council, a gathering place where dozens of alien civilizations met to discuss important matters. Before he left, Admiral Kang met with him privately. Ambassador, the Council species are old. They've seen empires rise and fall. They might not want to risk war with the Kreth. You'll need to convince them. I know, Taemin said, but I have to try. The Velkhari didn't ask if saving us was convenient. They just did it. Kang smiled slightly. Your grandmother would be proud of you. Captain Rena Bay's ship carried Taemin to the council station. During the journey, she shared what she had learned about the Velkhari's situation. They had evacuated their homeworld and split into small groups. They were hiding, trying to stay ahead of the Kreth hunters. How long can they run? Taemin asked. Rena looked grim. My analysts say 6 months. Maybe less. The Kreth are systematic. They're closing the net. Without help, the Velkhari won't survive the year. Taemin stared out at the stars rushing past. 6 months. Not much time to save an entire civilization. But the Velkhari had saved humanity with even less warning. Humans could do this. They had to. As the council station appeared ahead, massive and ancient, Taemin felt the weight of what he had to do. He had to convince species far older than humanity to take a risk, to fight an enemy they feared, to stand up for a people who had no weapons and no armies. He thought about his grandmother's stories, about the day the horizon met beings of light, about the compassion that asked for nothing, about the lesson that changed humanity forever. Now it was time to see if the rest of the galaxy could learn that lesson too. The Galactic Council Station was older than human civilization. It orbited a neutron star, held in place by technology nobody fully understood anymore. 47 different species had representatives here. Some walked, some flew. Some existed as clouds of gas in special chambers. Ambassador Taemin Han walked through corridors that had seen 10,000 years of diplomacy. Commander Boram Jin walked beside him, her hand never far from her weapon. She was former Special Forces, now assigned as Taemin's security and military advisor. She did not trust places with this many aliens. Stay calm in there, Taemin told her. We need allies, not enemies. I'm always calm, Boram replied. Calm and ready. The council chamber was enormous. It had to be, to fit representatives of so many different species. Some sat in chairs. Others floated in zero-gravity zones. A few existed only as holographic projections from their distant homeworlds. At the center sat High Scholar Mirax, the council's leader. She was a being that breathed methane and lived in a transparent tank. Her body looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. She had been leading the council for 70 years. Ambassador Han of Earth, Mirax's translator, spoke for her. You have requested an emergency session. The council grants you 1 hour to present your case. Taemin stepped forward. He activated a holographic display that showed images from a century ago. Earth covered in ash, dying cities, desperate people. Then he showed the Velkhari ships arriving. The transfer of technology. Earth healing. Many of you have heard of humanity's near extinction, Taemin began. 100 years ago we were dying. We had weeks, maybe months left. Then the Velkhari found us. They gave us the tools to save ourselves. They asked for nothing in return. They simply said, remember this kindness when you have strength. He changed the display to show the Kreth swarm. Dark ships. Destroyed worlds. The images were terrible. Now the Velkhari are dying. The Kreth swarm is hunting them. The Velkhari have no weapons, no armies. They will be extinct within months unless someone helps them. Taman looked around the chamber. I stand before you today to ask for your help. Not for humanity. For the Velkari, the species that taught us compassion deserves compassion in return. A voice interrupted him. It belonged to Counselor Thex, a reptilian being from the Thandorian Empire. Thex's scales were dark green and his eyes were cold. Beautiful words, human. But words do not win wars. Your species has existed in space for barely a century. What can you possibly do against the Kreth? They have destroyed civilizations 10 times older than yours. Taman did not look away. You're right. We're young, but we've spent that century preparing. The Velkari's gift let us advance our technology faster than normal, and we've developed something specifically designed to fight the Kreth. He shared data that Dr. Hyan had prepared, weapons that combined human innovation with Velkari energy principles, systems designed to disrupt the Kreth's biomechanical networks. It was impressive work, but another counselor spoke up. This one was a floating crystal being, similar to the Velkari but different. Your weapons are theoretical. Untested, the Kreth adapt quickly. What works once will not work twice. Then we'll adapt too, Commander Borum said suddenly. Taman shot her a look, but she continued. Humans are good at that. We adapt, we survive, we don't give up. High Scholar Mirax's lights pulsed thoughtfully. Ambassador Han, I must be honest with you. The Council has studied the Kreth for many years. We have protocols, contingencies, and the conclusion is always the same. Fighting the Kreth is futile. They grow stronger with each battle. They learn from every defeat. Most Council members believe engaging them would only add our species to their list of victims. Taman felt his heart sink. But he was not done yet. High Scholar, I have a question. How many species in this council have the Velkari helped over the millennia? Silence fell. Then slowly a few representatives raised their hands or appendages. Then more. Within a minute, over half the council had acknowledged Velkari assistance at some point in their history. I thought so, Taman said quietly. The Velkari have been helping species for millions of years. They preserved knowledge. They prevented disasters. They gave advice. They showed compassion. And now they're dying and we discuss protocols? His voice grew stronger. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your civilizations. I'm asking you to stand with us. Humanity will fight the Kreth whether you help or not. But together we have a chance. Divided, we will all eventually fall. The Kreth do not stop, he continued. They expand forever. Today it's the Velkari. Tomorrow it could be any of you. Better to stop them now while we still can than to wait until we're alone and desperate. Counselor Thex spoke again, but his tone was different now, less mocking. You would truly fight them? Knowing you might lose everything? Yes, Taman answered simply. Because it's the right thing to do. Because the Velkari taught us that compassion matters more than survival. Because if we don't help them, we're not worthy of being called civilized. High Scholar Mirax consulted with her advisors for several minutes. When she spoke again, her translator carried a tone of regret. Ambassador Han, the Council cannot officially sanction military action against the Kreth. Our charter requires unanimous agreement for war, and that agreement does not exist. However, the Council will not prevent individual species from acting independently. Taman nodded. It was not what he hoped for, but it was something. I understand. Thank you for hearing me. As he turned to leave, Counselor Thex stood. Wait, the Thandorian Empire will join your fight. Taman stopped, surprised. Thex continued. You showed courage today, human. My people respect courage. Also, you are correct. The Kreth will not stop with the Velkari. Better to fight them now. The Thandorian fleet will stand with yours. Another voice spoke up. It came from a being that looked like a floating mass of tentacles. The Quillari remember the Velkari's kindness from ages past. We owe them a debt. Our telepathic networks will aid in coordinating the battle. We join you. A third species stepped forward. These were the Corvin, a warrior culture that valued honor above all else. Their representative bowed slightly. The Corvin admire your dedication, Ambassador Han. To fight for others knowing you may die is the highest honor. Our warriors will sing your story, and they will fight by your side. Taman felt emotion well up in his chest. 3 species. It was not an army, but it was more than he had dared hope for. Thank you. All of you. The Velkari will remember this. Humanity will remember this. High Scholar Mirax spoke one final time. I cannot officially support this action, but I can say this. The galaxy will watch what happens. If you succeed, if you prove the Kreth can be beaten, Others may find courage. Good luck, Ambassador Han. Outside the council chamber, Commander Borum let out a breath she had been holding. That went better than expected, did it? Taman asked. We have 3 allies against an empire that has destroyed 15 civilizations. 3 is better than 0, Borum pointed out. And the Thandorians are fierce fighters. The Quillari telepaths will give us an edge in coordination. The Corvan warriors are legendary. Plus we have surprise. The Kreth won't expect resistance, Taman smiled slightly. You sound almost optimistic, Commander. I'm realistic, Borum corrected. This will be the hardest fight humanity has ever faced. But we have something the Kreth don't understand. We fight for each other. They fight for consumption. There's a difference. They returned to Captain Rena Bay's ship. As they prepared to leave the station, Taman recorded a message to send back to Earth and Admiral Kang. Admiral, we have allies. Not as many as I hoped, but enough. The Thandorians, Quillari, and Corvan will fight with us. Begin coordinating with their military commands. We need a battle plan that uses all our strengths together. He paused, then added, Admiral, I know the risks. I know what we're asking our people to do. But I believe we can win, not because we're strong, but because we're fighting for something that matters. The Velkhari showed us compassion when we needed it most. Now we show the galaxy what humanity learned from that lesson. The message sent, Taman looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velkhari were running and hiding. Somewhere out there, the Kreth were hunting. And somewhere between them, humanity and its new allies were preparing for war. Captain Rena joined him at the window. Ambassador, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you really think we can beat them? The Kreth? Taman considered the question carefully. I don't know if we can beat them. But I know we have to try. My grandmother told me something when I was young. She said the Velkhari didn't save humanity because we deserved it. They saved us because they chose compassion over logic. Now it's our turn to make that choice, and if we fail, Rena asked quietly, then we fail trying to do the right thing. I can live with that. I can't live with abandoning the beings who saved us. Rena nodded. Then let's make sure we don't fail. The ship jumped to FTL, heading back toward human space. Behind them, the council station continued its eternal orbit. Inside, representatives discussed what they had witnessed. A young species barely a century into space, choosing to fight an impossible enemy for the sake of gratitude. Some thought humanity was foolish. Others thought they were brave. But all of them would watch what happened next. Because if humanity succeeded, it would change everything. The Velkhari homeworld system had once been the most beautiful place in the galaxy. Crystal spires floated in clouds of glowing gas. The nebula itself seemed alive, pulsing with colors that had no names in human language. Now it was a war zone. Admiral Suji Kang stood on the bridge of the Unity, humanity's flagship. Around her, the combined fleet assembled. Human ships gleamed with new armor. Thandorian warships bristled with railguns. Quillari vessels hummed with telepathic energy. Corvan attack craft moved in perfect formation, their pilots singing war songs. It was still not enough. Kang's tactical display showed 12 Kreth hive ships. Each one was the size of a city. Each one carried thousands of smaller attack craft. The combined fleet was outnumbered 4-1. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Velkhari megastructure. The view screen changed. Elder Luminara appeared, the same being who had saved humanity a century ago. She looked older now, her light dimmer. Behind her, thousands of Velkhari sheltered in their last sanctuary. Humans, Luminara's thoughts touched their minds. You came. After all this time, you remembered. Kang felt emotion tighten her throat. We never forgot, Elder, you saved us. Now we save you. The odds are against you, Luminara observed. You may all die here. Then we die doing the right thing, Kang replied. That's what you taught us. Dr. Hyun Seo worked frantically at his station. He monitored the Kreth ships, watching how they moved and adapted. The enemy was already studying the fleet, learning their patterns. His weapons had to work perfectly the first time. There might not be a second chance, Admiral, Hyun said, his voice tight with stress. I'm seeing something concerning. The Kreth are adapting faster than my simulations predicted. They're already developing defenses against our weapon signatures. Kang cursed under her breath. How long until they're immune? Hard to say. Maybe an hour of combat, maybe less. Then we end this in less than an hour, Kang decided. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Kang. Execute protocol gratitude. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and don't give them time to think. The fleet surged forward. Human ships deployed their hybrid weapons, firing energy beams infused with electromagnetic pulses. The beams struck Kreth vessels, disrupting their neural networks. For a moment, the enemy ships went dark, but only for a moment. The Kreth recovered quickly, their biomechanical systems rerouting around the damage. They returned fire with weapons that looked alive, tentacles of dark energy reaching out to tear ships apart. The Thandorian ships charged in close, their railguns firing solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic impacts shattered Kreth armor where energy weapons failed. Thandorian warriors roared their battle cries as they fought. The Quillari did not fire weapons at all. Instead, they linked their minds together, creating a telepathic network that connected every allied ship. Suddenly, the fleet moved with perfect coordination. Every captain knew what every other captain was thinking. They fought as one organism. The Corvin proved why they were feared across the galaxy. Their small craft dove between the massive hive ships, too fast for the Kreth to track. Corvin boarding parties attached to enemy hulls and cut their way inside. They sang as they fought ancient poems about honor and glory. But the Kreth were learning. With every attack, they adapted. With every tactic, they developed counters. Hyun watched in horror as his predictions came true. The Kreth were evolving in real time. "Admiral, they're adapting to our weapons. The effectiveness is dropping." Lieutenant Commander Yuna Ko heard the report from her fighter. She led Horizon Squadron, humanity's elite pilots. Her ship screamed through space, dodging Kreth fire. Her squadron followed in perfect formation. "Horizon Squadron," she transmitted. "We're going for the command nucleus. If we take out their central brain, the whole fleet goes stupid." "Commander, that's suicide," one of her pilots objected. "We'll never make it through their defenses." "Then we die trying," Yuna said simply. "My grandmother was on the original Horizon. She told me the Velkari risked everything to save us. Now it's our turn. All wings, follow me in." The squadron dove into the nebula using the glowing gas as cover. Kreth sensors struggled to track them through the interference. They flew closer to the central hive ship, the massive vessel that coordinated the entire swarm. On the Unity, Admiral Kang watched the tactical display with growing despair. They were losing. Slowly but surely, the Kreth were winning. Already, 3 allied ships had been destroyed. Dozens more were damaged. Then Elder Luminara's voice filled her mind. "Admiral Kang, there is a way we can help. The Velkari can channel our collective energy through your weapons. It would amplify their power beyond anything the Kreth can adapt to." Hope flared in Kang's chest. "Do it. We'll coordinate with your energy pulse." "You do not understand," Luminara said gently. "Doing this will drain our life force. We will save you, but we will die." "All of us," Kang froze. The entire bridge crew stopped what they were doing. Sacrifice themselves? The Velkari would die to save the fleet? "No," Kang said firmly. "Absolutely not." "Admiral, it is the only way," Luminara insisted. "We are old. You are young. Let us give you this final gift." I said no. Kang's voice rang through the bridge. She looked at Dr. Hyen. "Is there another way?" "Any other way?" Hyun thought frantically. His mind raced through equations and possibilities. Then his eyes widened. "Maybe. Admiral, what if we overload our own fusion cores, create a massive energy cascade? It would cripple our weapons, leave us defenseless, but the pulse might disrupt the Kreth's adaptation systems long enough for Commander Ko's squadron to strike." "How long would we be defenseless?" Kang asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15 before we can restart the cores." "And if Ko fails?" "Then the Kreth destroy us all while we're powerless." Kang looked at the view screen at the Velkari megastructure, at the beings who had saved humanity and were now offering to die for them again. She thought about her grandchildren back on Earth, about what kind of universe she wanted them to grow up in. "Elder Luminara," she said, "you saved us once. This time we save you. That's what it means to be grateful. That's what it means to be human." She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships prepare to overload fusion cores on my mark. Horizon Squadron, you have 1 shot. Make it count." "Understood, Admiral," Unico responded. Her squadron was in position, hidden in the nebula right next to the command nucleus. "We're ready, all ships," Kang said. "For the Velkari. For gratitude. For every being who ever showed kindness in a dark universe. Fire." Every ship in the Allied fleet overloaded their fusion cores simultaneously. The energy release was massive, a wave of pure force that rippled across the battlefield. It did not destroy the Kreth ships, but it did something more important. It confused them. Their adaptive systems, overwhelmed by the sudden chaos, froze for a few critical seconds. Now, Una screamed. Her squadron burst from the nebula at maximum speed. They fired everything they had at the command nucleus: missiles, lasers, kinetic rounds. The nucleus, caught by surprise and unable to adapt, shattered. Una's fighter took a hit, then another. Her systems were failing. She ejected her co-pilot but stayed at the controls, steering her dying ship into the nucleus's core. Her last transmission was simple. For humanity, for the Velkari, for everyone who believes kindness matters. The explosion was brilliant. The command nucleus died, and across the battlefield, the Kreth fleet suddenly lost coordination. Ships drifted, some fired on each other, some tried to flee. Without their central intelligence, they were just machines, confused and broken. The Allied fleet, even with dead weapons, pressed the attack. Thandorian ships rammed Kreth vessels. Corvan warriors set off explosives. Quillari telepaths drove the enemy into panic. And slowly, impossibly, the Kreth began to retreat. By the time human weapons came back online, the battle was over. The surviving Kreth ships fled into deep space, their first major defeat in centuries. Admiral Kang stood on her bridge, looking at the casualty reports. Too many dead, too many ships destroyed. But they had won. The Velkari were safe. Elder Luminara's presence touched her mind once more. Admiral Kang, you refused our sacrifice. You risked everything to save us. Why? Kang smiled tiredly. Because that's what you taught us, Elder. You showed humanity that kindness isn't a debt to be repaid. It's a fire to be passed on. You saved us. We save you. Someone else saves someone else. That's how the universe gets better. There was a long silence. Then Luminara's voice came again, filled with something that might have been wonder. We watched your species for only a moment before deciding to help you. We saw potential, but we did not imagine this. You have become something beautiful, humans, something that gives us hope for all species. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched the recordings of the battle. They saw a young species risk everything for beings who had helped them. They saw 4 different civilizations work together perfectly. They saw the Kreth, thought to be unstoppable, retreat in defeat, and they began to wonder. If humanity could do this, what else was possible? If gratitude could be this powerful, what did that mean for civilization itself? The Battle of Velkar Prime was over, but its echoes would ripple through the stars for generations to come. 50 years after the Battle of Velkar Prime, the galaxy looked different, not in its physical shape but in its spirit. Historian Samin Lim traveled from world to world, collecting stories for her research. She was writing about the battle and what came after, about how one act of gratitude changed everything. Today she visited a small colony world on the edge of human space. An old woman lived here, spending her retirement in a house overlooking an alien ocean. Admiral Suji Kang, retired now, tended a garden of earth flowers and Velkari crystal plants growing side by side. Thank you for agreeing to the interview, Admiral, Somin said as they sat on the porch. Kang smiled. Her hair was white now, her face lined with age, but her eyes were still sharp. I've told this story 100 times, but I never get tired of telling it. It's important that people remember. Do you have regrets? Somin asked. So many people died in that battle. Commander Keo, thousands of crew members. Does it haunt you? Kang was quiet for a moment. Every day, I see their faces in my dreams, but I don't regret the decision. We did what was right. Unico died a hero. They all did. And because of their sacrifice, the Velkari survived. The galaxy learned an important lesson. That matters. Somin made notes on her tablet. The galaxy did change, didn't it? My research shows that after the battle, everything shifted. It did, Kang agreed. The Galactic Council reformed its charter. They made mutual aid a priority instead of an option. Species that had been enemies for centuries made peace. Everyone realized that cooperation was stronger than isolation. She gestured to the sky. Out there, 60 different civilizations are now part of the Alliance of Mutual Aid. They work together to prevent disasters, stop conflicts, help species in need. All because humanity showed them it was possible. Somin's next interview was with Ambassador Taemin Han. He was older now too, but still active in galactic politics. They met at the Alliance headquarters, a space station built jointly by 20 different species. The Alliance has intervened in 14 major crises, Taemin told her. showing statistics on a holographic display. We've prevented 3 genocides, stopped 2 ecological collapses, mediated 7 wars before they could start, and we've helped 32 species recover from natural disasters. That's incredible, Sumin said, but it must be exhausting. How do you keep going? Taman smiled. I remember my grandmother's stories, about the day the Velkari saved us, about how hopeless everything seemed before they arrived. If they hadn't helped, I wouldn't exist. None of us would. How can I not help others when I have the power to do so? He paused, then added, also, we're not alone anymore. The burden is shared. That's the beauty of what we built. Humanity started this, but now everyone contributes. The Thandorians provide military protection. The Quillari offer telepathic coordination. The Corvin train peacekeepers. Even species that fought against us in the past now work with us. Soman traveled next to a Velkari research station. The Velkari had come out of isolation after the battle. They now worked alongside humans, sharing knowledge and creating new technologies together. The station floated in the same nebula where the battle had taken place, a symbol of hope rising from tragedy. Dr. Hyon Seo worked here now, collaborating with Velkari scientists. He was old but still passionate about his work. His lab contained wonders that mixed human innovation with Velkari energy principles. We call these hybrid technologies, Hyon explained, showing Soman a device that generated clean energy from quantum fluctuations. Human creativity combined with Velkari wisdom. Together we've created things neither species could make alone. Medical scanners that can detect disease before symptoms appear. Agricultural systems that can grow food anywhere. Propulsion drives that are twice as fast as old FTL systems. And you share all of this? Soman asked. You don't keep it secret. Hyon laughed. Why would we keep it secret? The Velkari taught humanity the most important lesson. Knowledge shared makes everyone stronger. We publish all our research. Any species can use it. That's how civilization should work. During her research, Soman discovered something fascinating, a recording that had been classified for 50 years, only recently released to historians. It was from Commander Unico's fighter, recorded moments before her final attack. Soman listened to it alone in her quarters, tears running down her face. Ko's voice was calm even though she knew she was about to die. If you're hearing this, we succeeded. The Velkari are safe. That means everything we did mattered. I want future generations to understand something. We didn't fight because we were strong. We weren't. We fought because we were grateful. And gratitude, it turns out, is the strongest force in the universe. The Velkari showed humanity compassion when we needed it most. That one act changed our entire civilization. It made us better. It gave us purpose. And when the time came to repay that kindness, we didn't hesitate. Not because we had to, but because we wanted to. If you're listening to this, remember that. Remember that one act of kindness can change everything. Can save a species. Can transform a galaxy. Be that kindness, pass it on. Make the universe brighter. The recording ended. Soman sat in silence for a long time, thinking about those words. Her final interview was the most important. Elder Luminara had agreed to speak with her. The ancient Velkari was preparing for her final rest, her energy fading after millions of years of existence. But she wanted to share her thoughts before she passed. They met in the crystal gardens of the Velkari homeworld, now restored and beautiful again. Luminara's light was soft, gentle, like sunset on water. Young historian Luminara's thoughts touched Somin's mind. You seek to understand what happened. Let me tell you what I have learned. We Velkari have existed for epochs. We have watched countless species rise and fall. We have seen civilizations achieve greatness and destroy themselves. We have learned much about the nature of intelligence, of consciousness, of life itself. When we helped humanity, we thought it an isolated act, one dying species among millions. We gave them tools and expected nothing. We believed they would use those tools to survive, perhaps to spread among the stars, perhaps to eventually fade away like so many others. But humans surprised us. They did not just survive. They learned. They understood the lesson we did not even know we were teaching. That compassion is not weakness. That gratitude is not debt. That helping others makes you stronger, not weaker. Luminara's light pulsed with what might have been joy. When the Kreth came for us, we accepted our fate. We are pacifists. We do not fight. We thought we would simply end. But then humanity came. Young, small, barely a century into space, and they fought for us. They risked everything for us. Do you know what that meant to us? To see a species we helped not just remember us, but love us enough to die for us. It changed our understanding of the universe. We thought compassion was something only the old and wise possessed. But humans taught us that compassion is something anyone can have at any age. It just requires the courage to act on it. We saved humanity once, Luminara continued, but they repaid us in ways we never imagined. Not just by saving our lives, but by showing the entire galaxy what civilization can be. By proving that cooperation is possible, that peace is achievable, that kindness can be the foundation of an interstellar society. Young one, write your history well. Make sure future generations understand. One act of compassion created a chain reaction that transformed the galaxy. That is the power of kindness. That is what humanity taught us all. Soman completed her dissertation 6 months later. She titled it, The Gratitude Doctrine: How Humanity's Debt Became the Galaxy's Salvation. It was published in 17 languages across 30 systems. The closing ceremony took place at the Nexus of Stars, a monument built in orbit around Earth. It was a massive structure, part human metal and part Velkari crystal, representing the bond between the two species. Representatives from every allied species attended. Elder Luminara made her final public appearance. Her light was very dim now. She would rest soon, her consciousness joining the collective memory of her people. But first she had something to say. Friends, her thoughts reached every mind present. I'm old. I have seen the birth and death of stars. I have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. And in all that time I have learned one truth that stands above all others. Compassion is never wasted. We saved humanity once thinking it a small act in an infinite universe. But that act grew. It multiplied. It transformed not just one species but an entire galactic civilization. Humanity did not repay us. They repaid the universe. They took the gift we gave and gave it to everyone. They proved that kindness is not a limited resource. It is infinite. It grows stronger each time it is shared. I rest now, content, because I know the future is bright, because humans and all their allies will continue to light the way, because compassion has won. Luminara's light faded to nothing. She was gone, but her legacy lived on in every species that now worked together, in every world that received help from the Alliance, in every child taught about the importance of kindness. Soman stood among the crowd watching the ceremony. She thought about all the interviews she had conducted, all the stories she had collected, all the lives changed by one moment of compassion 150 years ago.